Senator Aliyu Sabi Abdullahi is still here with us, and he was shedding light on the Senate's decision to throw out the request by the federal government to borrow $30 billion. You were saying that, you try to provide a historical context as to, the lack of details, that the Senate itself initially, already asked the federal government to go a borrowing, and we were expecting plans for that. But you say that they brought this without any details. But then there are also questions, because some other parts of this have been raised to the effect that there's been some legislative party face-off, which it would seem that APC governors are seeking an end to. Do you think that this has anything to do with it at all?
Well, the reality is that this face-off started almost a year ago.
Yes.
And within those years, there are so many things the executive brought, and we consider them positively. So, how come?
So this has no bearing with it whatsoever?
Yeah, for me, because in the first instance, let's look at it. We've given you reasons. Are we saying that when this kind of funds are to be borrowed, the letter that Mr. President brought is sufficient for us to just say, okay, it's good, go ahead and borrow?
Because the people who also say that oftentimes, depends on the relationship the executive has with the legislature, they always find ways around these things. They would make concessions, they would bend over double backwards to ensure that certain things go through.
We have done that several times.
Yes.
But let me tell you, on this issue, it is a very serious matter. Because like somebody said, we are trying to carry a loan that, from what I gathered, may take 30 years to repay. 30 years, where will I be? So if we are taking that decision, we are taking this decision not just for ourselves, but for even people who right now are innocently unable to even understand what we are talking about. So it means we must be very fair and thorough in taking this kind of decision. Now, the point is simple. Like I said, we have taken so many, we have given approval for so many things. This particular borrowing plan, we detail most of the issues that senators, because we are all representing different areas. And if, as some analysts are saying, it includes projects that will be implemented in the state. The issue is that I'm from Niger State. I'm representing Niger North with 8 local governments where there is high poverty, where the roads are terrible, where there is no water, where the hospitals are bad, where education is in the lowest. I am interested in knowing what is in this particular borrowing as it will affect the constituents of Bargu, Kontagora, Mariga, Mashegu, Ushishi, Rijau, all the local governments, 8 local governments in my constituent. This is the thinking of every senator, because the essence of this representation is that we are here to ensure the dividend of democracy gets down to almost every cranny. And that's why the Constitution Section 14, subsection 2C is very clear. In every actions we take, we must ensure there is, national loyalty. We are promoting inclusiveness, participation, and so on and so forth.
Let's go to Lagos now for some questions.
Well, Senator, when you started out, you did mention how in the letter it had said that please find attached the breakdown, but it was not attached. But that raises a lot of questions for watchers who think for a loan request as $30 billion, you'll expect people should have done their homework. People be on top of their game about putting all the facts and figures together to present this to the Senate such that they can then properly consider it. From what you've seen, are you confident that at the end of the day, when this does come in, all of those perhaps would have been done such that the people can have this confidence that, oh yes indeed, having borrowed this money, we can work it out to pay it back?
Well, thank you, Chamberlain. The issue here is this. I think it has to do maybe with the language we are using. As it is said that Senate throws out. The point is, it is for us to consider the debate on that particular request. So we treat out the need to debate it, and we give reasons. Now, what is incumbent here is we're expecting all of these details will come back to us. And I think this brings to mind the key issues some people have been, saying. It's important that people who are saddled with responsibility of trust to assist Mr. President remember that we're in a democracy and we went out to ask that we be given the privilege to serve. And they are given this privilege to serve and they must do their homework. I have been in public service. I have served in capacities where I knew I have to do what we call due diligence before a letter goes out. It's surprising that a letter coming from the office of the President and Commander-in-Chief of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, those who are handling it, that letter has a word, something attached, and that document is sent without that attachment. I think it's unfortunate that this is happening, but this is the reality, unfortunately, and I think it calls to mind that yes, it's time for us to reappraise certain positions that have been given to certain people. If people are not competent, I think they should just step aside and allow the President, who has the will and the mind. It's not the duty of Mr. President to see that the letter is attached. It's somebody's duty. What is the Chief of Staff doing? What is all the Secretary to the Government of the Federation? What are they doing? So these are the fundamental issues. And we have said it before. We have said it before that certain things are done to set Mr. President against the legislature. And I think this is a classical example of how these things are done to set us up. Because what we simply did is saying that in doing our job, we are not giving enough information to do our job. And we all know, if you go to the bank to take a loan, is it possible you write a letter to the bank manager and you will not attach any plan that he can look at to see whether when he gives you this money, actually this money will be able to serve the purpose and that you'll be able to return that money? Senator, so I think these are fundamental issues. And like I said, it's quite unfortunate, but as it is, if all of these issues are addressed and brought back, the Senate is more than desirous to see that something positive comes out of it. And I think we are interested in looking at how we get this country out of recession so that the pains that are out there, all of these things we have been discussing, is not important to Nigerians. What is important to them is, can I eat today? If my child is sick, can I take him to hospital? If I'm traveling, can I get through the road without having pains? Like some people will tell you there are rules that if a pregnant woman passes, she may go into labor. So these are the concerns that Nigerians are worried about, and as representative of the people, we go out, we see it, and we are concerned. And we want to see that these things are resolved. And we know we have a leader that is capable of providing the leadership for these things to be resolved. But you see, the leader cannot do it alone. He needs lieutenants, he needs the other arms, and I think the lieutenants also have a duty to ensure that all the arms, it's like the wheel, when you are pushing in one direction and somebody is pushing in another direction, I don't think we'll get anywhere.
Let me come in here, Senator Abdullahi.
Lessons from all of this. I'm somebody who believes those who do not learn from the mistake of the past are bound to...
Senator Abdullahi, talking about the past, one thing is clear here. There is every possibility that the request will come back, since you have just also shared some views here saying that it is expedient and important that we fix some of these decayed infrastructure. But